Our title may be a little bit misleading. We have the word expert in there. There's no certification to form a coalition. We are just regular people working together to save animals. So to the extent we are experts, so shall you be also by the end of the session. So first, what is NKUT? Why do you see so many of these shirts? You've probably caught on at this point, but No Kill Utah is an initiative of Best Friends Animal Society that, along with the coalition of currently 56 other Utah-based animal welfare organizations, is designed to make Utah a no-kill state by 2019. And the cool thing about that is we're actually a little bit ahead of schedule. So that means that animal shelters in the state will save every healthy and treatable animal. And in general terms, over time, that's 90%, and I describe that kind of as the floor. We always want to be higher than that, but that's the percentage that we really strive for and which we're very, very close to. So this morning, we're talking about what a coalition is. So when I like to know what something is, I go to the dictionary. For those of you that don't know, those used to be big books with words and would tell you the meaning of the words. Now you can Google it, but I actually went to the Webster Dictionary, and it says that a coalition is a group of people or groups that have joined together for a common purpose, or it is the action or process of joining together with another for a common purpose. No Kill Utah, our purpose is right in our name. We are working together to make Utah a no-kill state. So what is not a coalition? Well, groups working independently, what we had before our coalition formed. You tend to have a competitive mentality. Who here has ever felt competitive against another rescue or another shelter? If you're not raising your hand, you're lying to me. So there's really no leadership. There's no shared vision. And what's really lacking is goals, benchmarks. We're all doing good work independently, but we're not collaborating on what the ultimate goal for our organizations might be. We might have individual organizations' goal, which is very, very important. But if we're saving animals, we should work together, right? We should really know what a common purpose is. So if you were in the general session on Thursday morning, you probably got more history about Utah and our movement in Utah than you ever wanted to know. So I'll be a little bit more brief now. But in the year 2000, that's when the predecessor of the NKUT Coalition began. It was the No More Homeless Pets in Utah Coalition. It was formed by Gregory and Julie Castle. And the goal was to bring together rescue groups, veterinarians, and shelters to work together to make Utah a no-kill state. They formed a steering committee to move forward, and the impetus for doing that was really because of Maddie's Fund. The visionary, forward-thinking folks at Maddie's Fund that were providing the resources for No More Homeless Pets in Utah to launch said, if we're going to help you guys do this, you need to form a coalition. You need to get the rescues and shelters and the veterinarians who are willing to help out on the same page. So how was it formed? How are coalitions formed? I mean, ultimately, it's pretty simple, right? I mean, that's why I say expert sounds like too great of a word, because it is simple. Successful rescue groups and expert individuals were simply asked to participate. Gregory and Julie got on the phone, just like he described on Thursday, called organizations, asked them to participate in Utah's Week for the Animals and other events. And it was really just a matter of asking other organizations to come together. No More Homeless Pets in Utah provided the vision of common purpose. And again, now it's in the name of making Utah a no-kill state. It's pretty straightforward. That's why we're all working together. Additionally, there were benefits of membership. So we asked people to join, but then we provided some benefits to them as well, and I'll talk a little bit more about that going forward. And there were definitely skeptics. I mean, even to this day, there are some rescues in the state of Utah that do not participate in the coalition, and that's fine. That's their prerogative, but I will strongly argue that we are more effective when we work together. So the NKUT Coalition. So we launched in 2014 the new name to reinvigorate the No More Homeless Pets in Utah Coalition and to provide a laser-like focus on our time frame of making Utah no-kill by 2019. The NKUT Coalition is based on the principles of honesty, integrity, professionalism, and mutual respect. And that's really important. One of our founders, Francis Batista, says if you're going to join our coalition, we have a no bash, no trash policy. We're working together. We've got to remove that competitive mentality and not speak ill of one another. Now, does that always play out? Not always, but for most part, we all get along incredibly well. And we launched the new brand. So the NKUT brand assists in marketing and expresses a simple yet descriptive message for the public. If any of you have had the chance to drive around the city, gotten outside of the Salt Palace, hit the freeways, we have a lot of billboards around town, which hopefully you've noticed. We use marketing to get the message of our coalition and what we are trying to accomplish in Utah out to the general public so that we can recruit even more people to the cause. Our priority is saving dogs and cats found in Utah shelters, and in doing so, we believe that our interests are best served by cooperation among groups who share that common goal. So membership is open to all nonprofit organizations, governmental, well not all, you've got to be animal focused, right? But governmental agencies and animal-related businesses that provide services that contribute to saving animals in shelters. So what's really important about coalition work is it builds those partnerships. We have our rescue groups and we have our shelters, and we're at the same table working together. We have a veterinary organization that focuses on high-volume spay and neuter that is part of the coalition and helps to provide those services to coalition members, and also helps to provide education to the public on the necessity of spay and neuter. We actually had a group join recently called the Legacy Initiative that actually will provide resources to homeless individuals who may have a dog, usually a dog. Sometimes I guess it could be a cat. But if they see them out on the street, they will simply ask, do you need food for your dog? Do you need a coat for the dog in the winter? Things like that. So it's different types of organizations coming together, but all focused on the welfare of animals and saving lives. So, why a coalition? Why not just work independently and focus on our own organization's mission? Well, no one organization can accomplish the work of no-kill alone. We would not be on the verge of a no-kill state if best friends were just trying to do this all alone. We are more effective together. Additionally, shelters need a variety of options for getting animals out alive. So Tracy, who's from one of our shelters, is going to talk about how their shelter has improved through coalition involvement. We'll tell you it's great when you have a whole list of rescues that all meet the standards of the coalition that they can rely on to hopefully transfer out when they reach that kind of too full moment. Rescue groups already exist, and a coalition increases their effectiveness for the reasons I just mentioned. And for NKUT, again, best friends, we like to think we're great, but we can't be in all 29 counties and in every community in the state. So to have that geographic reach, to make the entire state no-kill, to make all of your states no-kill, to eventually make the country no-kill, it requires a multitude of organizations working together. So I said leadership is critical, which it is. And that's why NKUT is a Best Friends initiative, because we have stepped in to provide that leadership. So it's a Best Friends-led initiative, but it's not a dictatorship. We have an advisory committee that the groups all can provide input for. But the leadership helps provide the information and resources necessary to accomplish the goal. Particularly as we talk about those benchmarks. Best Friends, we collect data from all of the shelters in the state. And so we know where we're at in our goal of no-kill. We know where the problem areas still exist, and we provide that information to the coalition so we know where we need to act. And that's really, again, important to increase effectiveness. But feedback from the coalition members is incredibly important. It's critical. They must have buy-in, right? I mean, you don't want to be part of a coalition and feel like you have no say in the direction that the coalition is going. Best Friends Utah has the resources, we do, and so we provide incentives and support where needed to assist with getting the noses out, getting the positive outcomes for the animals that end up in the shelter. So I keep referring to benefits. So how do we entice people to work together? So the first thing, and really a couple of very visible things for our community, we do 2 super adoptions at the Utah State Fair Park each year that is open to all of our coalition members. Shelters and rescues come together to adopt out animals, and that's very useful for 2 reasons. Primarily adopting out the animals, finding them homes, but it's also, when I refer to marketing, we really market those super adoption events, and it serves as an educational opportunity for the broader community. So super adoptions really do have that dual purpose. And who's heard of Strut Your Mutt? If you have a Strut Your Mutt near you, hopefully Salt Lake City was the home of the first Strut Your Mutt. And that's a fun fundraising event that all of our coalitions have access to. You may know the model, but you sign up in teams, you encourage people to donate to your team, and it all culminates in a great party and walk around Liberty Park in Salt Lake City in October. We've moved it a little later in the fall, so it's a little more comfortable for all of us and the dogs. Additionally, if you are an NKUT Coalition member, we promote member organization through those events, through the NKUT website. We try to feature different organizations through our social media when they have their own events or a great story to share. The opportunity to learn about new and innovative programs through NKUT at our annual conference. Who here is a coalition member has been to the annual conference? Oh, that's actually awesome. I'm glad that it's just my coalition people here. So this should be all new to you. But our annual conference is great. It's much smaller than the Best Friends conference that we're at. It's just a one-day event. But we get together and pull in some great speakers. We've had Jackson Galaxy at our conference. We had Downtown Dog Rescue come up from LA and share the intervention programs that they have. So a number of different things that continue to educate our coalition members about how they can improve the work that they're doing. And additionally, we provide stipends and grants to increase the capacity of our rescue organizations. We need to transfer more animals to rescue, and so to the extent Best Friends has resources, as the leader of the coalition, we want to share that with our coalition members. We also provide discounts at our spay and neuter clinics. So Best Friends Utah, we have 2 clinics, one in the south end of the metro area and one in the north end of the metro area, and we have coalition days. It's actually Tuesdays. So our organizations get dedicated surgery times, and the shelters especially, we oftentimes waive the fee for those spay and neuters for the shelter pets themselves. All pit bull-like dogs receive free surgeries, and community cats as well. We have a lot of TNR work in the state, and so we have robust voucher programs to get those community cats fixed. Additionally, you're all probably familiar with the No More Homeless Pets Network. If you are a member of the NKUT Coalition or the NKLA Coalition, you're automatically a network partner. So we have pretty similar requirements for memberships, and it's all kind of Best Friends led, so those are synonymous. So the important part of a coalition, especially for the shelters, as I mentioned, to know that they're working with reputable organizations, is you must have standards for membership in your organization, and hopefully you all agree on what those standards are. What we do with the NKUT Coalition is we have a coalition agreement. It's an actual document that the boards of our rescue partners or the governing bodies of the shelters have seen, they review it, they commit to those standards, and we put pen to paper and ask people to sign it. So it formalizes the cooperative relationship among all members of the coalition in support of our vision to bring about a time when there are no more homeless pets in Utah. And it outlines the expectations and the responsibilities of our members to facilitate cooperation, collaboration, coordination, and effective communication between all members and with the public. So what are some of those standards? What do we all believe in as NKUT Coalition members? So first of all, adoption of pets from shelters and rescue groups instead of buying from pet stores or breeders. I think if you are in this room, you probably believe in that. Not everybody does, but we're trying to get that message out there. We do believe in spay and neuter for all of these animals that are coming out of the shelter system, preferably before the ages of 4 to 6 months. We require that our organizations support ordinances that protect communities from any dangerous dog instead of breed discriminatory legislation. What's really exciting is through the support of our coalition, 2 years ago, our legislature adopted in state statute that local communities cannot adopt breed discriminatory local ordinances. And so that's, let's get a round of applause for that, because that was very exciting. And those types of successes, to get the legislature to do something on our behalf, is pretty incredible and requires an entire coalition statewide in order to accomplish it. We also want our organizations to believe in TNR. So we define that as humane alternatives for community cats. We know that in many shelters, our feral friends have no positive outcome. And if you want to participate in our coalition, you've got to support that positive field return. Wider access to low-cost veterinary services, including spay and neuter for low-income individuals. We promote that as a coalition. And educating the public in general about responsible pet ownership. Cooperation among rescue groups and shelters and volunteers. So again, that cooperative piece is written out in our agreement that we're working together. We believe in microchipping all dogs and cats. So our rescue organizations and the shelters that adopt out animals, we want to have a commitment that they'll be microchipped so that they can ultimately get home in the event they end up being a stray and end up in a shelter. So we also ask that you provide your numbers to us. We said we collect data from all of the shelters in the state, but we also ask that the rescues let us know what they're doing. How many animals did you take in this month? How many adoptions did you perform? How many spay and neuter surgeries did you support? So the standards that are within the agreement, what you're carrying out as your own individual rescue organization, tell best friends what you're doing. So again, we have that data and we can strategize how to be more effective together. If you are part of our coalition, you commit to only adopt out sterilized animals. Rescue groups that are part of our organization must be 501c3. And we have had circumstances where a great group of people are working together, they're doing good stuff, and they want to be part of the coalition, but they haven't gotten their 501c3 status yet. Well, we will help them do that. We think it's important in terms of showing a level of organizational sophistication, and we will help walk you through the IRS process because we know it's bureaucratic and difficult. So if you haven't got there and you want to, we'll help you do it, but we do require that to be a requirement for membership. And we also want you to be in good standing with GuideStar Charity Check. Are you all familiar with GuideStar? Check it out if you're not, but if you run a rescue, you probably are already listed there or will be at some point because they tend to rate all 501c3s. We also ask that our coalition members maintain a lifelong commitment to the animals. A little bit difficult for our municipal shelters, so we can be a little flexible on that with the municipal shelters, but our rescues definitely need to accept returns at any point during that animal's life because we don't want animals that have gone through the rescue process and for whatever reason the adoption didn't work out, we don't want those animals to have to go back and be a burden on the shelters. So we need you to make that lifelong commitment. Provide daily care to all the animals in your care, so just standards of care. We of course want you taking care of the animals you have. And ensure that no animal in your care is being bred. So some of this seems to be intuitive, it should go without saying, but we want to make sure there's no confusion. That's why we put it in the agreement. We make sure that it's very clear for everyone. And of course, ultimately, we need to all be actively working together to make Utah a no-kill state. So that common goal that the coalition is trying to accomplish. So really quick bragging, again, you saw a lot of this in the general session, but in 2015, NKUT was able to help 29 of the 56 shelters in the state accomplish no kill. So round of applause for that, very good. So before the coalition began its work in 2000, more than 46,000 dogs and cats died in shelters across the state every year, 46,000. Last year that had dropped by 80% and was down to just 9,000. And the number between 9,000 and what would have gotten us to 90% was only 3,200. So if we accept that some animals in the shelters really do have situations that require mercy, the gap between that is 9,000 down to 3,200. Collectively, the coalition has supported more than 150,000 adoptions since the founding of the coalition. And it's, again, I know that I've already said this, but it's the partnerships between the shelters that are part of the coalition and the rescue organizations and the other type of organizations in the coalition that have saved nearly 10,000 animals from local shelters in 2015 alone. So our statewide intake was around 57,000, and 10,000 of those animals went to rescue partners, were transferred out of the municipal shelters. So our greatest accomplishment is we're now running up to about our third year, I guess 36 months is how I should say that, of being no kill for dogs. So in 2015, the dog save rate was 93% in the state, and it continues to tick upward. When we talk about a no kill Utah, you know, there's that 90% threshold which we're working for, but what we really want is all 56 or 57, there's been a merger of those government shelters to be no kill as well. So we can get to 90% on the aggregate and still have some shelters that aren't there. But what's really cool about dogs right now is when I look at that monthly report of all of the save rates for all of the shelters, they're all in the high 80s or 90s for dogs. I mean, we've really reached an incredible stasis for dogs. We still have work to do for our cats, though. Cats are a unique problem. I see a lot of nodding heads. We understand that in many communities, it's more difficult for cats. But even that 75% save rate for cats was 11% better than the year before. So we are improving. We're attacking our cat problem through humane alternatives for community cats, return to field programs, and providing kitten nursery and other support for neonatal kittens that come into shelters, because we know they're incredibly vulnerable as well. So our combined save rate in 2015 as a coalition work was 84%. And so far year to date, we're at just about 87% in the state. So lots of success. We're excited about it. This is my contact information. If you want to jot that down and ask me any questions afterward.